Hello, this video talks about the fourth house in Vedic astrology. We have covered the first house, the second house, and the third house in our earlier videos in a little bit of detail. And this video will cover the fourth house of Vedic astrology. Now, the fourth house is referred in the Sanskrit texts or the Vedic texts of Jyotisha or Vedic astrology as Matri Bhava or Sukha Bhava. Matri means mother, Bhava means the zodiac sign, or actually the house, not the zodiac sign. And Sukha means happiness, and Bhava means the house. So the fourth house in Sanskrit is referred as per Vedic astrological text as Matribhava, which is the mother's house, and Sukhabhava, which is the happiness house. And this is what the fourth house represents. The fourth house represents the mother and the mother nature as well, and happiness in general. And of course, it does represent property, land, real estate, and also it's a big significator of vehicles. It also represents emotions because the fourth house is ruled by, as the zodiac Cancer, and the natural ruler is Moon. So it is but natural, or it makes sense that emotions form an integral part, or emotions can be represented through the fourth house or the fourth Vedic house. And of course, emotions are connected very closely with inner happiness and happiness. So it is also the Sukha Bhava or happiness house. It also, some astrologers also associate the fourth house with early education. The higher education is connected more so with the ninth house, but the basic education which a child gets, and the first education which a child gets, is normally from the mother. So the basic education is also closely associated with the fourth house. As far as the physical body is concerned, the fourth house represents the chest area, and the chest area, of course, is represented by the zodiac of Cancer as well, which is the natural representation of the fourth house. The ruler is Moon, which is the natural ruler of the fourth house. So the chest area is directly associated with the fourth house, and the heart area as well is associated with the fourth house. And some astrologers have gone to the extent of saying that, well, look at a chart and look at the fourth house, and that will give you an idea of how the person is, how his heart is. Is he a clean-hearted person? Is he an evil-hearted person? How are his feelings and emotions? Because that's the fourth house, the heart area, the chest area, his inner feelings, his emotions. So just look at the fourth house and that'll give you a very good idea. However, there's a slight disagreement here. Some people do not associate a person, how that person is, based on the fourth house itself. There are other indications and other ways of assessing that. And we're going to get into that in detail in our future videos. But yes, some astrologers give so much importance to the fourth house that they actually make it a representative or a direct connection with the person's emotions and how that person is. Basically, is he a good person or not? If you look at it spiritually, It's since it's associated with emotions, it is a house of devotion as well. So the fourth house has a lot of importance as far as emotions is concerned, and like I had mentioned earlier, that the fourth house is the zodiac sign, the natural zodiac sign of Cancer, and Cancer is ruled by the moon, so there is a direct connection there. Now Parashara also has expressed his opinions, and in his teachings about the fourth house he has mentioned the mother's aspect as well, definitely. So Parashara is very clear on saying that the fourth house is directly related to the mother. Also, Parashara has associated the fourth house with residential comforts, like housing comforts. So it can be indirectly called a house of comforts as well, because it's a Sukhabhava, and the Sukhabhava is nothing but happiness. So if you have a good house, obviously there is one part of the happiness in your life, because house is a very, very important part. If you have a comfortable house, it's about sukha, happiness, comfort. So housing is associated with the fourth house as per Parashara. And Parashara says that if the fourth house lord is aspected by a benefic like a Jupiter or Venus, then one will have good housing comforts, one will have a good house to live in. Or if the fourth house is occupied by the Lagna lord, your lord of the ascendant, then also it makes a great combination for having a comfortable house. Parashara goes on to explain here that should the fourth lord be in its own sign or in its own house or in exaltation or in its own navansha. We are going to discuss about what a navansha is in our future videos, because it's a long topic, it cannot be covered in this video. But Parashara says if the fourth lord be in its own zodiac or its own house, which is the fourth house, or in exaltation, the native or that individual will have a comfortable house, and he will have comforts related to lands. Other things which Parashara has associated with the fourth house is conveyances and musical instruments. So two other things other than house is conveyances, like a car. And of course in those days there were no cars, so whatever the means of conveyances was at those times, thousands of years ago, be it a horse or a carriage or any comfortable conveyance, he relates that to the fourth house. And musical instruments. So, and the reason why he is associated musical instruments is because musical instruments is about music. Music is associated with the heart and the emotions, so there's a direct connection there. Another combination which Sage Parashara has mentioned here, that if the 10th lord joins the fourth lord in an angle, and we know what an angle house is, 1, 4, 7 and 10. So if the 10th lord joins the fourth lord and sits there with him in an angle house or in a trine, which is the 5th house and the 9th house, the person will acquire beautiful houses, beautiful palaces, beautiful mansions. So that's a very good Raja Yoga associated with acquiring beautiful housing to the extent of it could be a beautiful palace. Also, sage Parashara has mentioned that should Mercury, as a planet Mercury, be in the ascendant house, while the fourth lord, being a benefic, is aspected by another benefic, then the person will have a lot of respect by his relatives. So the condition here is that Mercury should be in the ascendant or the lagna, and the fourth house has to be a benefic. It cannot be a malefic, a natural benefic. And if the fourth house lord, being a benefic, is aspected by another benefic planet, then the person will have respect amongst his relatives. Another combination which sage Parashara has mentioned about the fourth house is, if the fourth house is occupied by a benefic, or if a benefic is sitting in the fourth house, while the lord of the fourth house is exalted, that shows that that individual's mother will be a long living mother and she'll have good bodily strength. Another combination which sage Parashara has mentioned, which is related to the fourth house, is if the fourth lord is at an angle house, while Venus is also sitting in an angle house, which is 1, 4, 7 and 10, and at the same time Mercury is exalted, then that person will be extremely happy. So I mean, all these combinations, these Raja Yogas or yogas, are very difficult to remember because there'll be hundreds and thousands of these combinations. But as we practice more and more, we get to relate these yogas which are mentioned by the ancient sages in our practical day-to-day reading. And a lot of astrologers don't even look into this. They have their own imaginary explanations of how a planet would behave based on a little knowledge which they may have gained. But the purpose of this video is to go into details and try to understand what the sages have said and try to relate those combinations with the present day astrological readings which we do. So that ends our discussion on the fourth house. I mean, there are hundreds of other combinations which other sages may have mentioned, like Bhrigu or Jaimini, or even more combinations by sage Parashara. It's not possible to discuss all of them here in this video, but this pretty much ends our discussion on the fourth house in a little more detail, and we will discuss about another topic in our next video.